Awesome. Well, I think we should get started.
Love it.
All right. So, hello, Funding Futures cohort. We're so excited to bring to you today a very special guest speaker because we know you are planning events for 2026 for the new year, and you probably have lots of questions swimming in your head. Um, and so Katie here is coming to the rescue. She's going to share tips for planning community events that are special, fun, and on budget. So we're hoping we'll have lots of time for Q&A and discussion.
Mhm.
And I'm glad we have some we have Roxana here who is from Olga's core team. That's great. This is going to be recorded. And you can definitely share it with any of your core team members, especially those who are helping with events. So this is Katie Rose Crosswhite, who lives in Denton, Texas, where she works creating and organizing community events. She loves connecting people, and she is an events coordinator, festival director, party thrower, and arts advocate who has been planning and producing events of all shapes and sizes for over 15 years, everything from birthday parties to corporate conferences. She's passionate about life-shifting power when it comes to gatherings and happiness when cheering others on.
Mhm.
Currently, she serves as Director of Creative Services at Pinnacle Live, where she helps clients create impactful, memorable conference experiences. She's also the co-director of the Thin Line Fest, a documentary film, music, and photography festival that draws over 12,000 visitors annually. In addition, she serves on the board of Paper Chair, a nonprofit dedicated to helping local artists find studio spaces and access essential resources. Previously, she ran the food and beverage program at Etsy's Brooklyn headquarters, organizing hundreds of lunches and events for colleagues while reinvesting over $1 million with local food makers, caterers, and farmers. And currently, she's building a 20-foot tool wall installation for an upcoming conference and producing her first film, a musical comedy documentary about the power of art in a small town. So maybe, Katie, we could start with some quick intros so you can meet our folks
Yeah.
here. So I'll just call on you guys. Anya, you want to go first?
Yeah, by way of intro, sure. So I'm Anya. I'm representing Town of Claverick and Village of Philmont. And I don't know what else. We're planning two events in February that we think will be kind of smaller scale, medium scale maybe, and then hopefully a larger event at the end of our project in the like late May as a kind of wrap up town picnic type of thing.
Amazing. Hi, Anya. And have you ever planned events before?
Only like personal stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Nice. There was a thing that I had sent around. Hi, everybody, by the way. I'm so excited to meet all of you and have this chit chat. I'd sent out a question ahead of time that was, is there an event that you can think of that has stuck with you or inspired you or maybe was a terrible disaster and that stuck with you as well? And what was the feeling that you were left with? I don't know if you have an example that you could share, Anya. Something.
I honestly I've thought about it and I'm still thinking about it. I know there have been some really wonderful ones, but I guess maybe not one specific event, but I know that I've had actually no, okay, no, I do have one. So after the I was in Georgia at graduate school and right after the 2016 election, there was a lot of like local concern, I guess, and there was kind of an event about it happened really kind of last minute, spontaneously. It was at a church, but they just convened like people who were worried about like immigration related issues
Mm.
following that election. And it was just a huge potluck. There was just it wasn't really like driven by any kind of like one group or like talking. It was just really like meet other people who are like interested and like share food and like let's come up with some ideas. And then there were some community projects that came out of that, and it was just kind of really fun. So yeah.
Ah, love that. Fantastic. Okay, who's next? Thank you.
How about Chris? You want to go?
Yes, hi, I'm Chris. I live in the Millbrook area in T T Dutchess County. I've I have been working in donations and event planning for a number of years now, but I always love to hear other people's ideas about what's going on in terms of events. Um, Answer to your question. Um, Yeah, I think I've been at events that were over-programmed, and I think that
Mm,
that was kind of I don't think people liked it too over-programmed. I think that
mm,
there has to be a medium of kind of having some program for some people and maybe not program for others.
mm,
I also I do find that it's worth, even though it takes a little bit extra time, but really understanding like who is coming, and just really trying to analyze what those groups are, and and just and seeing if there's an opportunity to, kind of create more opportunities that would be more toward that group and that audience. So,
mm, mm.
but happy to be here. I am planning an event for the end of January. It's going to be an award ceremony. Spirit of Millbrook is what we're calling it, and it's to award five people in our community who have done a spectacular job in making it what it is today.
Love that. Love to celebrate the luminaries. How cool. Thank you, Chris.
How about Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm from Columbia County, Chatham, New York. And I actually have an event that I'm hosting for this project tomorrow evening.
Exciting.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited about it. I also hosted one back in November that was super productive. And as far as a really cool event that stands out to me, was this one gallery that I was helping with in Brooklyn, where they would put on this show where you would have like hundreds and hundreds of artists.
Wow.
It wasn't like a one person show. It was like the whole community showed up and brought, everybody who was an artist in Brooklyn and New York brought a painting. So it was cool.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. It was cool. And it was hung salon style. So it was just the whole like
Uh,
building was covered with paintings. So
that sounds so fun and vibrant. Thank you, Kate. So nice to meet you.
How about Lisa?
Hi, Katie. So I am Lisa Hintz. I am from Woodbury, New York, down by the Woodbury Commons, if you know that area. Most people do. I am, I actually just not for this program, but I did just recently host a toy swap last weekend.
Amazing.
And that was an awesome, like, so many of our community members came out and brought toys, left toys, swaps toys. We were there for a couple hours, and just to see the kids be able to interact, and some came to choose slightly used toys for cousins or nieces or nephews, but then others got to choose for themselves. It was just so much like energy, and the kids had a blast. And then the leftovers we are redistributing to like our local daycares and some of our local churches with parishioners in need. So worked out good. And then
Oh,
this Saturday I have my Wreaths Across America, so that's a different mindset, but
okay.
that's always fun too. So
Well, congrats on what sounds like a really great event. And I love that joy and that circle of giving and just excitement.
yeah, we've got some great pictures of the kids like really just enjoying themselves. So it's always
Uh,
good when you get the kids like involved.
Totally.
So
They're a
thank
big part
you.
of the community too. Thank you.
How about Olga?
Okay, hi, hello everybody. Olga Anderson. I represent the town of Highlands, which is we have West Point Military Academy as our next door neighbor, so that gives you some orientation. Um, well, I want to say that the best event I ever put on was my son's wedding, but
Yeah.
I think that's not really what we want to talk about.
No, I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, any kind, weddings are, that's a premier event. That's a
Yeah.
great touch point. What did
And
you
I
love
have
about it? Or what?
really, I mean, I get completely, totally, and utterly stressed out before, during, and after any event that I put on. So the fact that I feel good about that one, I think, says to me that it was well done and it met all of my personal needs. But so I want to say that. Really, in terms of near-term events, I think that nature-based workshop that we did with partners at the beginning of this program kickoff was really, really good. Everybody went away from that feeling good. And it was the first time we gathered this group together and the fact that, as a first time meeting, it's like it would be like the equivalent of a community gathering because you've got a lot of people who don't necessarily know each other. I think the key thing for that was the person that partners invited to facilitate that it was they were extremely well prepared and well versed in how to engage people, and I really felt that that was a lesson learned and that we're incorporating that lesson into our next big community gathering, which is coming up hopefully mid to late January. Had a little sticky point with the date, but we have invited another person to come and facilitate at least part of that because I felt that, that brought a level of engagement that only comes from somebody who's really trained and expert at that kind of facilitation.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Olga.
Great. And Roxana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm also in Highland Falls, part of Olga's core team. And yeah, so we're in full gear preparing for this event in January. And just reflecting on an impactful event that I attended. I was inspired by Kate's example, and I was reminded of Open Art Studios tour that the Brooklyn Museum organized um, years ago, and it was all throughout the borough. And they had artist talks, and artists were opening their doors for visitors. And it just felt like really nice to have people coming together around a common cause. And Yes, I really liked the inclusive feel of that event, the sense of discovery of walking through different parts of the neighborhood and meeting different people, different artists, and other people who are passionate about art as well. So for me, that event was really just about that feeling of having people come together and participate in a common cause.
Mm, love that. My own personal sort of event that I was thinking about, Roxana, was I went to Penland, which is a school for craft over the summer, and they had open studios with some of their residents who are on
Mm.
campus. And similar thing, it was so magical to see the space where things get created and like to kind of peek behind the curtain of a place that you wouldn't normally have access to.
Hmm.
And there was just something that was so fueling about that. They also had a different cookie at every stop, which was very nice, very cool touch. But I totally am, on the same wavelength with you about that. There's something that's really special about kind of yeah, that peek behind the curtain.
Yes, and also like the intimacy of the conversations that you're able
Empathy.
to have with the artists in their space, the fact that you had access to ask questions, learn about their process. It was just very magical, like you said.
Love that. Thank you for sharing.
And how about John? You want to introduce yourself? Talk about
Yeah,
an
hi,
event that
I'm
moved
John
you.
Bradley. I'm in Claverick with Climate Smart and struggle with all the things everybody else struggles with. I
Fair.
realize that's not very specific, but I have been with this our Funding Futures project late getting going on interviews, but I find I've just really enjoyed getting people to talk, and it's uh, I have lots more to do to figure out what's going on with our community because probably like every other community, it's just very hard to figure out what's really happening.
Mm.
Uh, and anyways,
And did you have an event that has stuck with you over time or anything that came to mind for you?
golly, um, I can't think of anything.
That's fair.
Uh,
No worries.
we've only had one event in with our Funding Futures program, and the through Clever, our Climate Smart, we don't. We have lots of meetings, but not much in the way of events. Although sometimes they're fun. Uh,
And have you had a chance to host any events yourself, or will this be kind of like your foray into the space?
I think the latter.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the
And
great focus.
Anya's sort of helping us think through that, and um, it's this is very different from the kind of events that you know, tabling events or repair
Sure.
cafes and things like that. That's a sort of very different um, kind of event. So it's really, for me, it's new. Uh,
Cool.
um,
There's something to be said for the beginner's mind, right? There's I think that like it's such a cool, fun thing to work with people who are getting into event planning or, you know, taking that step into community building in this specific way. Because as somebody who's been doing it for a long time, it's so fascinating to see the different things that people hone in on, how they explore their gifts and bring those to the table. And so I'm excited for you, and I'm here to help with those parts that maybe are a little anxious. I hope I can give
well,
you.
I've been community organizing for 60 years,
Okay,
uh,
okay, well then, yeah,
and it's still
this is a
all new to me.
different version. Okay, so you're an old pro, actually. Amazing. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Oh, we have here. Okay, did we get everybody?
I think we did.
Amazing. I'm so grateful for all of y'all for being here with me. I'm going to go through a few slides. But it's very casual. I want to be here as a resource to you primarily. If you have questions about things throughout, happy to field those as we go, or you can ask questions at the end. Like I said, I just want this to be a place for you all to share resources with each other. Um, and also for me to kind of download to you some of the things that I've learned over my years of trying and messing up and keeping going in the event space. So yeah, I'm excited to dive in. And um, is there anything anyone needs before we kind of get going on that? Let's see. Hold on. No. Now, of course, Vanessa, it's giving me fits with my screen sharing. 1 second. Here we go. I do just want to point out that I have some resources that I'll be able to share with you all after the event, including a let's see, a budgeting tool and um an example run of show. Okay. One more time, I'm gonna try sharing. Okay, this is the right one. Here we
Yeah,
go.
we see it. We see it.
Yay. Okay, hallelujah. Okay, so just a quick overview of a little agenda. Introductions, events that changed you. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll get into a few slides here about tools for event planning, finding our why, thinking about success metrics, and talking a little bit about what I like to call pizza math. And then a little bit more into fears and needs, the things that are keeping us up at night, maybe about your upcoming events. And sort of maybe doing just again, like a little resource sharing amongst the group, things that are working well, things that we're looking for solutions for. I'm a big brainstormer. I like to talk solutions and ideas. And so hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for that. And here's me. We already got to go over all that fun stuff. And we did the icebreaker. I just wanted to reiterate, thank you all for sharing your event sort of experiences. We all kind of intrinsically know some when things work or things don't work. And I wanted to just make a point that so much about great events can be built, right? It can be planned for and designed. So when we think about some of the themes that I heard from y'all's examples, I think about like finding your community, finding people that are sort of dealing with similar anxieties, or finding a way to share joy and create an energy around volunteerism or giving or just awareness. Joy is something that is spontaneous, but it's also something that we can like build into the agenda, right? And into the vibe of an event. Seeking out qualified experts, organized people, luminaries, award winners, those kinds of people that can all be part of a planning process and can help you create the kinds of events that people will look back on and have warm, fuzzy feelings about, or curious feelings, or even charge sometimes. I just wanted to encourage you to think about how you can use your planning process and your programming for your events to kind of build those pieces in, right? I also wanted to start with a permission slip. I have a friend who is an artist here in Denton. Her name is Delaney Smith Vaughn, and she gives out permission slips to people. And sometimes it's even as adults, we're not often given that chance to be given permission. So I wanted to give you all a permission slip saying you have permission to start small and simple. You have the permission to feel nervous. You have permission to focus on progress and people and not perfection. You have the permission to ask for help and have fun, to mess up and learn something new about yourself and your community. I will say, in all the years that I've been throwing parties and doing event work, I've never thrown a perfect event. I have a little ribbon behind me. It's a good reminder. A few years ago, I bought a lot of dog ribbons on an online auction, and this one is second place. And I really like to kind of have it up as an inspiration for, their success in all different levels. There's lots to be celebrated. So just wanted to sort of kick off with that. And then I wanted to sort of talk about your why and how important it is to create a container for events. And why is really a huge driver. For me, it helps with my motivation.
I think this process is helping that. So,
Amazing. I
yeah.
love that. And Chris, since you mentioned the award ceremony, Was there a why that you sort of were driving towards for that specific kind of event?
Yeah, early on, and I'm sure everybody's heard this a thousand times on this group call, but for us, it was very clear that our community was so inundated with like future projects. Like it's always a future, it's always this, and there wasn't really a space for people to celebrate the foundation that we were standing on.
Hmm.
And I just heard it in the way people were talking about it and the conversations that like there had to be some acknowledgement of the community and what's kind of occurred up until this point. So with people who've been stewarding and volunteering in our community for decades, really. So that's kind of where the specific event came out of. So really just trying to bring people together and talk about, so what does this community mean right now and where are we going to is the goal.
Hmm. I love that. I love that grounding. I feel like so often, we can go and we can do a big thing and we forget to acknowledge, that we did that one thing because it's easy to just be like, okay, what's the next? What's the next? What's the next? And like living in that future space. So celebrating the foundation and celebrating kind of what's already been built is amazing. I love that why. Is there anyone who's struggling with their why, perhaps, for an upcoming gathering? Rockin'. No, good. Okay, great. Love that. Okay, let me go here. So I'm sure you guys are all, um there's so much talk about data, right, when we talk about events, especially in my line of work, right? Everybody is data obsessed. And it sometimes can be easy to get lost in that sauce. But I do think that identifying some success matrix that are both quantitative and qualitative before you embark on your event can be a good centering exercise. It can also help you when you're looking back at it to find those places to celebrate and also identify those places where you've learned something or you need to grow, right? So I would just encourage everybody to pick a few metrics before going into your next event that you can measure or track or just observe. I put some examples in here. So things like attendance, and that can be, I think the other side of attendance there is like invitation or outreach. So how many invitations are going out? If you're doing, say, a Facebook event, how many people are responding, saying that they'll attend, or email RSVPs or handwritten RSVPs, whatever form it takes. And then like measuring that against doing a quick count of how many people actually are able to make it, right? Participation to me was thinking about these listening events that could center around short presentations from people in the community. Vanessa and Paige sort of talked about kind of like 3-minute presentations at the microphone, and allowing people from the community to either share ideas or concerns, things like that. So for a participation matrix, it's like, or a metric, it's something like how many people, like say you get 12 signups, but we had 8 speakers actually speak. So what does that look like? Tracking that. Momentum is kind of what happens after. What are people inspired to do? How many volunteer signups were you able to get? How many, people have sort of expressed interest in attending the next event or the next sort of happening? When I think about operations metrics, those are things like budget. How were you able to stay on budget? What was surprising to you about the costs of things? You know, what did you hit the nail on the head when it came to pricing things out? And also staying on time, sticking within the parameters that you've set for yourself. And then qualitative is kind of like a little bit more um ethereal in some ways, how many people are getting together and chatting and visiting before the event starts, and how many people are lingering and mingling afterwards. What's the atmosphere like? What's the kind of energy feeling? That's a great thing to just be able to sort of observe as you move through your event. But I do think that like starting from things that you want to focus on or you want to measure can help you in the planning process. Here I have just a few more notes on those pieces, sort of individually. Um, I wanted to sort of point out that, you know, it can be easy to think that, you need to have 100% of response rate or people showing up who say they'll show up. But really, the number that we see a lot in a professional setting is, especially if it's not a ticketed event or like where somebody's paying money, a 40% attrition rate happens all the time. Managing your expectations about what can constitute a great attendance is important. Having 20 to 30 people, that's a great number. Because, like Olga said, we're building something one person at a time, right? Participation, I sort of spoke about that. If you're not doing the speaking engagement or like the listening tour kind of event, what's the participation of the activities that you are putting forward? How many people are diving in and getting, that they're being a part of the activity or the conversation. Operations, sort of talked about that. Some things to think about. Are there any kind of metrics that y'all are already tracking that are important to you right now that you might be able to share? No, not yet. So that's a great goal, maybe setting some things. Oh wait, is Olga talking? Let me see. Okay. Do any of these like feel like something that you could possibly do for your upcoming event as far as like picking a few data points to think about or observe?
Were you speaking to me?
Oh, I just was speaking generally, but I'd
Okay.
love to hear if you have thoughts, Kate. Yeah.
Um, so I don't have metric points. I kind of think the conversation might veer in a certain direction for this particular group. Just because we have these we're very fractious in our area. So this is going to kind of draw on a certain, faction or group in town. So I have some, but it may go in a totally opposite direction. I have to say, what really helped with my community conversations was having other people or like helping me with it, kind of moving the conversation along, so I didn't have to do it all myself.
Mm,
So I'm lucky that I have, and they're coming to this one, and so we've talked about, okay, this is where I think the conversation's going to go, and so just having those extra people to help kind of ask questions
mm,
or to dig deeper and to sort of keep the conversation going, so it's not all on me. So
mm. I
that's
love that. That's such a good delegation there. The conversation movers.
yeah,
Uh,
and these people get what we're doing too. So they've kind of become they're not like official stakeholders, but they've become kind of stand-in stakeholders here.
that's awesome. Anya, I know you said you've got some events in February. Are there anything, or is there anything that you're trying to track or you're focusing in on as something that's a signal to you that this is a success or this is something I need to work on?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've been thinking about it as you've been talking through these, and it's really helpful to see them outlined. I think for us, we've done a lot of and what John was referencing, we've done a lot of community interviews. Probably 60 plus by now. Or definitely 60 plus by now. And so I think what will be important for us is part of the goal of doing those interviews was so that we could encourage people to come to these later events.
Mhm.
And so I think tracking that, like how many of, those people that we'd had these kind of good like one-on-one conversations with, are actually able to come to these two events and maybe even bring another person. So that's the main one that stands out right now.
I love that. Especially, like we talk about qualified leads in our business when we talk about like our sales pipeline for work. And you know, there's something like to be said about the power of like an individual invite or an individual follow-up and the fact that you've already had those conversations is, I mean, that's just worth its weight in gold, especially if you have the ability to reach out to them as your event's coming up and say, "Hey, we love talking to you. And it would be great to see you at this thing." I have a lot of musician friends and the ones who send me the private DM, the note, like, "I'd love to see you. Could you come?" Like, I am always more likely to show up if I get, that personalized kind of interaction as opposed to maybe just running across something that's on social. So I think that's, you have such a great groundwork there for what you're doing. One thing I just wanted to call out, a great way to help move the needle on your success metrics is to actually talk about them. And so if you're hoping to get volunteers, make sure that you make an announcement about and have a sign up sheet or have a dedicated person to talk to. Like, we need more volunteers for the next one. We need 5 people. We want to have this many people attend next time. So if you could bring a friend, calling it out, giving it life, giving it a platform will help you further reach those goals and be successful.
Katie, I just want to add something to what you were saying about like how the personal touch
Mm.
is like the thing, is like that
Yes.
is the tipping point that gets people to actually show up. And like I even find with emails, I'm trying to reach a bunch of people and I do like a BCC,
Hmm.
like the number of people that respond to that is so low compared to
Right?
if I take the time to like, even if I'm copy pasting the same message, like sending it directly to people, or then like texting people, if
Yes.
email is like a thing to ignore these days. But yeah, I just want to say like I know it's time consuming, but like it's the that individual touch that counts.
Oh, I love that. Yes, absolutely.
I have to add from all the emails, and I've spent about 100 emails out to like varying groups and stakeholders, and I've only gotten one response from these like emails, unless I knew the person and I'd already
Mm.
primed them for it. So yeah, so it
Yeah.
was a lot of work person to person.
I mean, and that is, thank you for surfacing that because wow, sometimes it feels like you are just talking to the void, right? And I will say that like just putting forth that effort and sending those emails and sending those kinds of notes, mentioning it when you run into people in person in your community spaces, like it's amazing what will stick with folks. Even if they maybe don't take the time to respond. Um, I think it can really, be a mover for folks. So I just want you to feel supported in that choice was not the wrong one and it will be worth time. Um, okay. Okay. So this is sort of my slide on some of the more nitty-gritty things to consider or to have in your toolkit. Um, I outlined some roles that I thought could be helpful as you're thinking about volunteers and kind of co-planners for your upcoming events. It's really hard to do everything on your own. And it can be an amazing thing to be able to have team members to pass the baton off to when it actually comes to go time, right? And there's things happening. Okay, great. Yes, I will definitely share the tool slides. Oh gosh, went forward. And like I said, I'll also put the budgeting tool in here as well, if that's something that you guys are feeling you need. And then I also have a run of show. Do y'all usually write up like a run of show or an agenda for yourself or to share ahead of time for your events? Or is that something that like is a good goal for next time?
No, I like to have, I like to show, like run a show program, whatever,
Yeah,
so people kind of have a sense um, what to expect.
absolutely. I love that. I put floor plans on here. For my job, I use a tool called social tables a lot because we're designing ballrooms and things like that. But sometimes just having, even if it's sketched out or simple, rudimentary, having an idea of space planning can be a really great tool for you as you envision the space where you'll be and how people will move through it. And then I also had a note in here about feedback. And I don't have a slide on it, but it is on the handout about the importance of feedback. Vanessa and I have a friend, Morgan, and she likes to say feedback is the only way forward. And I love that. And I think that having something in place, a plan for a way to capture feedback, is going to help fuel future movement and future planning. Um, and so whatever mechanism that is, whether it's an online survey that's you're sending out to the people in their contact list that came, if it's marbles that you can put into a jar with a topic on it or a feeling. I went to a community event like that where people could vote on the initiatives they wanted to see in the next round of planning. I thought it was so fun and great. It could be an answering machine, leave a voicemail, those kinds of things. Whatever it is, just having some version, and even if it's just a slip of paper and a suggestion box, um, it's nice to give people an extra space to think through their thoughts and feelings and get them out and share them. Um, in my time at Etsy, like Vanessa mentioned, I spent a lot of time planning for food at events. I was throwing several parties or happy hours, including all employee lunches twice a week. So I was on average doing probably like 5 events a week. Um, and feeding upwards of like 1,200 people at a time. When I was at my kind of zenith point of meal planning. And I did a lot of pizza math. I also called it tamale math. If you're having pizza, I have some just pizza, cookies, coffee. If you're looking for some rough guidelines around some food and beverage pieces, um, I don't know if y'all are planning on having alcohol at some of your events, but if you do, it's a must to always have non-alcoholic options, and it's great to have options that are more than just water. Um, but just making sure that that's okay to have alcohol if you're bringing it in, and checking in with your venue and the staff there, with what's okay with food and beverage, honestly, so that you can either use them as a resource or seek out your own outside resources to have things delivered. Um, Is food a part of any of y'all's events or yes? Nice. Great. It's one of the joys of throwing events is you get to be tied to the person who brought me food or the person who brought me cookies. People really respond to that in a way that is like at a core that I can't explain, but there's something that really can make you a lot of friends if you have that power.
Oh,
Um,
Katie, do you have any tips? Because some folks are thinking about like potluck style.
uh-huh.
Any tips for potluck?
Yeah, I love a potluck. It also gives me agita, I will say, but I think that like potlucks are a great way to cut down on food costs, right? To and encourage a sense of community. I think that if you are able to ask specifically for things for people to bring, like maybe have parameters around like what kinds of dishes are welcome, I think that's helpful. If you were to take it another step, I say asking people to bring a label, like who made it, or like, or what is it, what's in it, maybe, a nod to allergies, can be a helpful tool. And also like a learning tool, learning about like, what is this dish? I don't know about it. Who can I talk to about this more? Is a helpful piece. I would also say bring extra serving utensils just as a backup as like the event coordinator if you're doing a potluck because I think people are so focused on the dishes that they don't necessarily think about it's great to have like a little plate in front of the dish where you can set the serving utensil when you pull it out, right? Things like that. I Yeah. Are folks so thinking about doing some potlucks or a mix of like catered and potluck?
Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of a mix. Really, the whole thing that we're trying to encourage here is we've discovered that we have over 20 different ethnic uh, nationalities in
Amazing.
our small community, and so we're really trying to have our next event be bringing the diversity that we know that exists here together because we don't spotlight that. Um, we,
Oh,
we don't know who our neighbors are.
mm,
So, really, the point here is for people to bring their ethnic specialties so we can all experience these things and build a community that way. So, but we're not going to take any chances. I'm going to get some stuff catered as well. So,
smart.
yeah.
Genius, honestly. I love that. And I will say, just reiterate, like some kind, having somebody bring, either you provide like a index card or a little sign or something that they could fill out just to kind of further that communication and that like that idea of like, this is something I've never had before. I want to try it. What is it? That kind of thing, I think could be a nice conversation starter as well. Okay. Oop, so sorry. Got excited. So some elements that I sort of think about when I think about budget, the big buckets here, food and beverage, of course. Your venue. Is everybody sort of locked in on the kinds of venues that they're going to be using? How has that been going? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the spaces in which you envision or are inhabiting. Oh, Kate, like where's your event tomorrow?
Mine is at the New Concord Historical Society, which is like an old
Freaking
church that was converted into a community center. Did you
amazing.
hear me, y'all?
Sorry, say that last part again.
I'm having it at a community center.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. How much is it costing you?
Nothing. They volunteered to do it for free.
Love that. Amazing. That's so wonderful. And also just to point that out or just to build on that, asking for sponsorship help throughout this process can be a real it can be scary, but also the worst they can say is no, we can't help. But something like, would you be willing to donate the space or donate time, or could you give me a discount on printing these flyers or helping me with food costs, things like that? Could we put your logo on the sort of invitation in exchange for 15% off, things like that? Just thinking about, especially because there's so much community value here, and businesses are looking to find people and meet people where they're at, and also be a part of that fabric. So I find a lot of times businesses, they want to help. People want to help. They want to be involved, and giving them the opportunity to do that. Um, and sometimes making it easy by just throwing a number out there or asking nicely can, I don't know, move mountains in a way. So we talked about promotions and a bit and sponsorship. I did want to talk a little bit about gear, making sure that you have at least a speaker and a microphone, and somebody to help you set that up, or a little bit of time to test it yourself whenever you are on site. If you're investing in like a PA and a mic, I also had a note in my handout that from there on, you always have a ready to go karaoke machine. You just need to add YouTube. So if that ever comes up and you need a quick event, you have what you need. But the AV piece could also be another place to help. I would say find volunteers. If that's not your expertise, find somebody to delegate that to. In venues, oftentimes the manager can also be a great resource for that. Find out what they have in the space. Also, when talking about venues, I just have down considering parking, bathrooms, accessibility, how easy is it to get to, how easy is it to find, are all important considerations. And also, where is the power and how much is there, especially when you're using speakers.
And maybe like signage outside, or like thinking
Absolutely.
about helping people find it really easily.
Yes, that's so true. Wayfinding is huge. I think also having greeters or corrallers is also a helpful role to have on your team. Having somebody who can keep an eye on the door as the event starts, just to reassure folks who may be showing up late, like they're in the right place, and to grab a seat or grab food or whatever, can also be a really helpful thing. Okay. So we've got to talk a little bit about, everybody's sort of, things that they're planning, but I wanted to carve out some time to talk about like what's keeping you up at night. Is there anything that you're nervous about? Are there solutions that people are seeking kind of specifically that it might be helpful to talk through as a group? Um, let's see. Um, is there anything anyone feels brave to share about anxieties about their upcoming events? Or also just questions for me in general?
Low attendance is always something that keeps me up at night.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, no matter how much you advertise or get it out to people, there's always those few stragglers that's like, I knew nothing about it. So it's always those, or those
Right.
last minute Larrys that are like, oh, I didn't know anything about it. I would have loved to have come. It's like,
Yes. There's something to be said for a small percentage of people who love to use that line, I will say.
so for me, that's always a thing. Like, those like I feel bad when I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I exhausted every avenue to get this out to people, but then there's always that one, and I'm like, ugh. Even after the toy swap, one
Yeah.
lady, I had so much to donate. I'm like, I've been advertising for like over 2 months.
Right. Oh my gosh. And there is a little bit of a little tiny dagger there, right?
Yeah.
I feel that so deeply in my bones. What does low attendance mean for you, Lisa? Like what number is low? What number is high? What's your parameters? What are you working with?
So coming from a climate smart, like I'm the climate smart coordinator, and I've hosted events where I've had zero. Like
Right.
literally, it's just my team. And we look
Mhm.
at each other and we're like, oh. But that
Yeah.
was when we were trying to promote EV cars and, electric vehicles and solar panels, and people just weren't interested, I guess. But I've been, like my Reach Across America is 100 people, and
Mm.
for our community on a freezing cold day is, I would call that a coup.
Wow. Yeah.
So, in my mind, for my location, and because we're going to be in January and we're an old farm that's now a distillery, um, I would be happy with 30, 35. I think I'd be happy with that.
Love it.
Uh,
That's
yeah,
great.
I think I would be happy. I can't imagine the room handling too much more than that anyway without it being stuffy, but
Hmm.
I would be happy with that for my community.
That's great. Um, I love
Katie,
that.
do you have a rule of thumb for like how far in advance you should be promoting this? And then like how do you stack up the promotions in the lead up to the events in an effective way?
Um,
And also like here we are in the holidays. Like, is there
right.
any point in like promoting something right now when people
Mm.
are so distracted or like how to do that?
Right. I think that right now there is you are going up the biggest the biggest event of events, right? Like the holiday season. And so I mean, there's something to be said about if you have the bandwidth to, create a post or create a kind of just a little nudge for people, like put it on their calendars. Um, as far as a timeline goes, I mean, I think that, if you're saving all your promotion to like within the month, it's going to hurt your ability to reach people. So I would say giving yourself at least a month is helpful. Um, but there's also something to be said for kind of a regular cadence when you get it within, like, let's say a 4 week um window, right? So whether it's posting, maybe it's twice a week or once a week, just in that lead up, as a little sort of pinging reminder to folks. The earlier you can start, of course, the better. Um, and again, like those in-person interactions, whether it's, church or the coffee shop or farmers market. I know it's cold, but like up there especially. So farmers market maybe not, but just thinking about those places and spaces where people are gathering where you can leave little reminders or Easter eggs or have little conversations. Um, it's kind of like all woven together. You know, for the festival, it's something that we struggle with in a really big way every year because the social media tools can feel overwhelming and kind of difficult to navigate sometimes, and keeping a sort of a cadence is something that we're always trying to improve with our social. Employing college students has been a great help for us. Um, and sort of theater majors and hospitality majors. I live in a town that has two universities. So we have people who are looking for internship credits, and we found some great success with that. Um, Again, like asking for resources, trying to tap into people who might be able to help with these pieces. I can't say enough about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a long-winded response.
Rose,
Uh,
do you have any tips on being a good delegator, like ways that you've learned to do that or have the courage to ask people to do things or know who to ask what, as opposed to maybe taking on too much yourself or being nervous to ask people to do things for you. Have you learned any lessons over the years on that?
Yes, hard lessons, hard, terrible lessons. I have historically been a terrible delegator for a lot of my career. And because it can feel scary and overwhelming to what I like share my Legos, right? The trust that it comes with asking somebody else to take on a piece of responsibility for me has I've always struggled with this idea of like burdening people. But a thing that I have leaned into again is going back to that idea. A thing that has really helped me is understanding that people like to help. And if you have people in your circle or in your larger kind of community that, you recognize their superpowers and you can tap into that, finding people that have opposite skills from you. And it's a great opportunity to compliment somebody. It's a great opportunity to give them a platform, a way to be active and dive in. Um, that has been my easiest path to delegation is actually framing it in a way that is about celebrating the people in my like either on my team or in my circle who they have different skills than I do and oftentimes they want to help um even on the day of there's been so many times when you're rushing around ready. I'm carrying 16 trays of something and seltzer under my wing and even just people are like, can I help you set that down? Can I put that on the table for you? Like, please let me help you. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'll say yes. Um, but yeah, so I think that like it's okay to feel nervous to ask people. But oftentimes I think they'll surprise you. And I do think leaning into kind of your intuition about recognizing when somebody has a different skill set than you and wanting to celebrate that and using that as a platform to kind of start a conversation. And also being happy and gracious if you get a no, you know, understanding that everyone is busy and sort of overwhelmed in a lot of ways, but you can't know, um, you can't know that there's always going to be a no, right? Like it helps to just ask. And sometimes it helps to just plant that seed because there's often times where I run into it's like it's a no now, but it's a yes for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if you like send an email to your group of volunteers and you're like, who wants to volunteer? And it's just crickets.
Mm, right.
See Lisa
So
nodding.
yeah. Yes, right. Like such a yeah, the volunteer piece can be a really a sticky wicket sometimes. Um, being direct is helpful. Again, kind of honing in on like it, knowing sometimes you don't always have the luxury of knowing the gifts and the skills of the people who are volunteering for you. Um, and it could start with a blanket statement. I think again, personalized follow-ups, personal reaching out. It's not just like a mass, maybe like a group email. Um, and sort of like navigating like, hey, I need help with the cookies or the signups. Could I ask you to be in charge of that? A
Yeah.
direct ask, I think, gives people because like when it's a nebulous ask, feeling, saying yes can feel immediately overwhelming to them. So specificity in these cases is a gift. Um, that would be my kind of antidote to sort of like the crickets.
So ask, like, approach them individually with a specific ask that they would have to say no to for realsies.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it gives you the opportunity to actually talk about the scope of what you're
Yeah.
asking. Um, which I think is, you know, really helpful because sometimes it feels like, okay, if I just say yes to volunteering, like, what am I getting myself into? Can I handle it? But if it's like, oh, you need me to, introduce speakers, I can do that. Or I can refill the water, or I can, set up chairs or take down chairs, those kinds of things. That's so doable. Happy to help. Okay, and this is my little reminder again. If just one person leaves feeling connected to their community, inspired to stay engaged, you'll have done something magical. And it sounds like y'all are all doing magical things. I know you all know this too, but I just wanted to say it out loud. Collective change starts small before it goes anywhere. Your goal is not to change minds, but to create an environment of community and communication. And if you're ever wondering, you have at least one big fan and one big supporter here in me, and happy to be a resource and a cheerleader for all of you if you ever need it. But I think and happy to talk a little bit more. I think we're almost basically at time, with a little buffer. So if there are any other
Oh,
questions.
yeah, Katie, do you want to share
Oh yeah.
the budget template?
Yes, I do. Let me grab her. So, okay, actually, I'm gonna give you guys in the chat. Here's a link to the handout. Hopefully that works. And at the very bottom of that is where I have a link to a budget tracker and the way to use this, just so you know. Right now it should be a view only. And you'll just need to make a copy in order to fill out your own information. So here's
Wait,
the,
does it prompt you to sign into Canva?
oh, does it? Okay, hold on. Let me fix that. Here's the spreadsheet. Can you view the spreadsheet? Is that possible to see the budget tracker?
Yes,
Okay,
that's great.
and then let me do a better job of this. Anyone with the link, no sign in needed. View. Sorry about that. Okay, how about
Got
that?
it.
Does that one work better? Does it make you
Yep.
problem? Okay, fantastic. And then I'll also give you a link to this presentation.
I
Okay.
do have a question for Vanessa and Paige
Yeah.
related to budget. So I submitted something to the treasurer, who's our gatekeeper for the grant. And I had to switch. So like what I figured my website design and information would be is different from what I put on the budget sheet. And she's given me a hard time about moving the money to a different line. Do we have anything that says we're not how do I put it politely? Stuck in stone or concrete
Yeah.
minded, or like we've got some flexibility here, lady. Yeah, I kept telling her like, hey, this is just a template. It's not how my
Yeah.
final budget's going to look. But she's like, oh, okay, I'll put it in. I was like, no, but she did.
Yeah.
And so yes.
So, yeah, whatever would be helpful. Like if you want Paige and myself to send, a letter on PCA letterhead saying we approve your budget amendments or something, that's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's whatever's helpful to you in terms of changing when
I
you things would change.
don't know what she's going to accept. So it's just this is my relationship with my lovely Desiree. But she's just like, you said it was going to be $200,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so yes, that would be, I'll find out what she needs to move it to a different line. But
Okay.
Great.
thanks.
Yeah.
And Chris, you have a question about insurance?
Yeah, so the place we're having it at, I'm sure it's true of a lot of places, needs insurance. I'm working with the library on trying to get that, but I guess that it needs an approval. If they say no, though, um, does Partners for Climate Action have insurance I could
Hmm.
utilize? No alcohol, no alcohol. So that should make you happy. Some of us happy. I was wondering.
God, we've been through this before, haven't we, Vanessa? I remember it being a little complicated to try to insure other people's events, but I can get back to you on that, Chris, and
I
ask.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was going to email you, but since we're asking questions, I just
Yeah.
thought I'd throw it
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of
it. Thanks.
course.
Hopefully, I won't need it, but I may, because
Okay.
usually the library answers me very quickly. They've been a little a little quiet in the past week, so
Hmm.
Could
Got it.
you all
hopefully.
actually tell us a little bit about event insurance? That's not something that I had thought of or talked about with our fiscal sponsor or anybody or venues.
Yeah, so for me, I always do it in the context of like an event for like with my company. Um and yeah, so basically you need a certificate of insurance, COI is what they'll talk about. And that's a great thing to ask your venues if they require that. I can look into what that is like for kind of spinning that up as an individual if you need to do that. Basically like our company, whenever we go on site to an event, we need to ensure that, yeah, our attendees or our staff are covered. But COI or certificate of insurance is what to look into. But I can follow up with Paige and Vanessa and find out more about kind of like that individual sort of liability.
Yeah. If it's like just a grassroots community event where there's not necessarily like a LLC or nonprofit associated with it.
Right. I will say that oftentimes, like it's a part of your like if you have the contract with a venue, for example, like they will have insurance, and that's something that should be discussed and like outlined in the contract if you end up having to sign one. And I would, just have that conversation because often, they will usually have insurance on their building at a place that has events. And so, just having that conversation about what's needed on your end and also double checking to see what kind of coverage they have is helpful.
And is it possible for a third entity, like in Chris's case, Partners for Climate Action can insure for
For
his
sure.
event? Okay, great.
Yeah. So I used to be part of a community group, and when we held different events, we needed a day's event insurance, and we've gone out. They're usually not too costly. And I know I did one at our local church, and the church sent me the information. It was like $100
Right.
to apply for it and get it. So I know as a private, a nonprofit like us, what we're doing, there is event insurance. It's just the where to
Mhm.
to find it, but it's usually not cost prohibitive.
Right. True. And like when you're thinking about budget, such a good thing to put in there, as part of kind of like that buffer, sort of like miscellaneous bucket, right? Of day of insurance and things like that.
Well,
And
we have a nonprofit as our fiscal sponsor for Partners Climate Action
Mhm.
Project, and they are underwriting our insurance needs. So,
Nice.
yeah, I don't know if that's an option for everybody else.
Yeah, for those of you who are working with your municipality, that's a good question for them, if they would allow you to go under their insurance.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, Katie, that'd be great if you could follow up with more information on that.
Totally.
Um, Guys, as I'm supposed to host an event tonight, actually, at my house, an open house for because I'm not running for village board again. So I have a someone from my climate smart task force who's going to run for my seat basically. And tonight was supposed to be like come meet her, have some wine and yummy bites, and um I'm looking out the window at all the snow.
Yeah.
And so, what are your thoughts, Katie, about rain dates, cancellations last minute? Like, what the hell should I do?
Right, right.
I mean,
Contingency plans.
contingency plans, right? Like, and some of the events folks are doing are going to be here in the Northeast in the dead of winter, so
Yeah.
something to think about, right?
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the first things I brought up with Vanessa and Paige when we were sort of talking about when these events were starting. And I was like, it can't be understated that the weather piece,
Yeah,
in upstate New York is luckily everybody's used to contending with it,
yeah.
right? Yeah, we had when we had the festival last year, there was tornadoes all around. So it's like, oh, that's like a very unwelcome, surprise guest, right? I think that flexibility is always key, knowing in the back of your mind that you do have a place to, if it's outside, go inside. Um, Understanding that like if it's unsafe, that you will have to cancel and you will probably need to know that. Have a backup date and time, or at least a communication ready to share with folks. I think Vanessa, for your event tonight, you may have to spend a little time doing a little reach out today, right? Checking in with folks, seeing if they are still planning on coming. Would
Yeah.
love to see them.
We're not supposed to get that much snow, Vanessa.
Okay, it looks really intense from my window here.
And see.
See that?
Wow. It also might be helpful to, yeah, make sure, yeah, I don't know, like a little marker outside. Do they know
Yeah,
is it hard to see the address? Do you have like
right,
maybe
right.
keep the lights on, put a, balloon, some kind of, again, wayfinding helpful.
Yeah,
It is. It's something that is, yeah, it plagues us all, right? But I do think that at least having in the back of your mind, or even better, having like a written plan that you can communicate to folks in the event of things getting hairy. This is our alternate time and date. Um, if it's something that does seem like it's going to really create a hindrance, or not a hindrance, but if it's going to be unsafe for people,
yeah,
good to make that call. I think that, New Yorkers are great at, you know, they just know how to dress, they know how to get places. They're not, So I think that you're still primed for some success there that, you know,
Yeah, it's entirely likely though that some brave soul will show up even if you canceled.
right.
So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
I think that that's a sure vote for you if they show up,
yeah,
Vanessa.
yeah. Right.
absolutely. They're passionate. Yeah.
So, I mean, should we need to cancel, I would say we need to scout out the location in case there are people who show up. And
Yeah.
because I know, yes, last week when we had snow, I showed up to a meeting with one other person there and nobody else came. So,
Yeah.
yeah, some of us just aren't smart enough to stay home.
Yeah, I mean that's having an RSVP, even if they're not like buying a ticket or something, but having an RSVP so that you have a way to contact people in
Yeah.
the lead up with any updates about the event. Yeah. I don't know, Kate, do you have like an RSVP for the event you're doing tomorrow, or is it just kind of more open?
Yeah, no, I did a Google
Yeah.
RSVP form. Yeah. So Oh, and I also wanted to add, so when I did my nature-based workshop, I went to our free store and got all of the plates and glasses,
Mm.
and I found these two really great coffee like holders.
Oh,
That
love
that
it.
helped. Yeah, because there was a ton of stuff there.
I this week have just been talking to my friend about free stores because they had never heard of the concept, and I used to live in Brooklyn, and my aunt was telling me there used to, way back in the day there used to be one in Williamsburg, and I was like, that's so great. Now there's one in Bush. I love that. I love that resource. What a find. The thrift gods, the free store gods were keeping an eye out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did an event where we have this, it's called Rock Lottery, and 25 musicians show up in the morning and they form five new bands, and then they perform that night with those five new bands. And all of the plates and cups and everything were sourced from my collaborator's niece's wedding. Like what was
Mm.
left over from the wedding. Like
Mm.
we found several people who were like, I have so many, happy birthday plates that I've got to get rid of. So half of them were happy, so if you have different kinds of expectations for what you need, and then anything can be a party plate. But okay.
Katie, will you just mention when we talked, you mentioned this big pitch event that you happened to wander into or you were at. I just wondered if you would share that with the group because I thought it was inspiring.
Yeah, so there's a incubator and like small business incubator and like co-working space here in Denton called Stoke. And for World Entrepreneurship Week, they had a series of events and I went to a few. Um, but the first one that kicked off the week was like big ideas. And so basically it's sort of, I think there's a lot of synergy here with what we were talking about for the listening tours, but it was basically um, people could sign up ahead of time or kind of like impromptu share ideas. They had 3 minutes, up to like three slides. So like a little container there, right? And they could talk about a big idea that they have for a community. We had some city council members show up, which was really emboldening and exciting, to be able to like be heard. Um, the event was great. There was probably like 30 people there, I would say. It was at a local bar that they like carved out a corner for us. They had a projection screen that came down. The team brought a speaker and a microphone, and they had a timer, kept everyone on schedule, and allowed for community discussion. But I stayed after the event for an hour talking with people, discussing those big ideas, just, like the juices, were flowing. It was funny too though, because but the venue like kept on their house music, so it was a little distracting. So thinking about like things that maybe don't work, and we know things where things don't work. It was like the outdoor music was pop punk and it was really loud, so it was kind of filtering in. But like it still, was a great event. And then that led in, it was also a place for some of the people who are pitching later in the week for a competition to practice. So they had a different audience and it gave them a chance to kind of like work through their presentation in order to prep themselves for what came later in the week, which was a more structured, larger event with tabling and a chance to win like $5,000 in funding for their business need or big idea.
Great.
So was awesome. So love that.
Thanks for sharing. I love that detail about there being house music and but it sort of in a way I think at the time you described it like everyone had to kind of gather in and
Yeah,
and then there were other people that would like wander over because they were interested like what's going on over here. So even the
totally.
mistakes like I love your the way that you encourage us not to be perfectionists and that's kind of a kernel of like a parable that shows that.
Absolutely. Going with the flow is just the name of the game in so many cases with this work. And laughing about sometimes it's also a really important tool. It's an actual tool. Because at the end of the day, I used to say that a lot at Etsy because those lunches were so stressful so many times, but I was like, you know what? It's not brain surgery, it's lunch. And this is okay.
Yeah. I know
Um,
we're at time, but like I did want to get in one more question. Um, do you have any experience or have you seen any great examples of when an event has like an activity area for the kid with some childcare or some babysitters or somebody, I'm just thinking about these events that our folks are doing. They want the grown-ups to be able to focus and converse. And so, like, while children should be welcome, and also, like, that means more parents will be able to come if they can bring their kids, or maybe even find an event more alluring if it's something fun there for the kids to do. Just wondering if you had any examples of that.
yeah, so I have a few actually, and there's kind of tiers here, right? Like, my local coffee shop that's also a plant store, they have like a water table slash like a thing where kids can paint with water on a banner, and it's like a little activity area. So when there's events there, there's like a little side quarter kind of space where parents can take the kids over there if they need time to like be distracted, still be able to listen. I think, I grew up in church, and church does it really well where they have like the viewing room, or thinking about like um overflow. And this may be something that's a little bit more, I don't, maybe like advanced is a word, but it just takes a little bit more technical kind of setup, which is like, doing a filming and then having a stream to another room, or like a place for people to be able to listen, maybe even if they can't see, because they are changing diapers, hanging with the kids, calming them down, whatever. Finding people who are willing to help with volunteering around childcare could be something that is like worth exploring. Um, and activities, right? I mean, you guys have such a cool opportunity here. Like, is there a way that you could print off some coloring pages that actually talk about some of these topics? What does it mean to like, you know, start educating, start engagement with like our littlest people, and thinking through what that tie-in could be. It could be a really fun exercise. I think that most importantly, just being able to have like sort of um, an auxiliary space that parents could know that they can go to. And maybe it's set up with just a few little pieces there to show that it's welcoming. If they need to step out is really powerful. Um, yeah, that's just
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Yeah. And folks, any last questions for Katie before we let her go?
Mhm.
Good.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank y'all
Thank
so
you.
much. This is so fun. I was so nervous,
Yeah.
but this is
Oh,
easy.
yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. I
Thank
mean,
you.
so use those resources. Vanessa, you can give anybody my email or text me,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
If you need a little extra support, or have questions that come up, I'm happy to, like I said, cheer from afar, support you from here. Excited for all that y'all are doing because it's really cool. So nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Likewise. Take care.
Thank you, Katie Rose.